Hey, welcome out there this afternoon, folks. And it's summer school once again, TNLearn Mathline. I'm Ernie Roberts. I'm your host for this afternoon's edition of TNLearn Mathline Summer School Style. Hey, we're glad to have you with us this afternoon. We're going to be picking up some great topics of sorts here. I understand we're going to be flowing a little bit, but let's see what the slate is all about, all right? Let's see what we've got going this afternoon. What is our topic? We're going to flow with the formula, and that's what we've been going with the flow here in summer school, all right? Good to have you with us this afternoon. If you will, get you some pencil, get you paper, whatever there, and let's do some math. Let's do some good stuff, all right? See what my first problem is all about here. Let's check, see what we got here. It says, formulas. I bet we're going to be doing geometry formulas all day long here. Hence, flow with the formula. Sometimes I'm a little slow, guys. Sometimes I'm a little bit slow out there. But anyway, here we go. Our first formula is for perimeter. And notice we're using letters to represent these little guys, all right? The perimeter formula is a P right there for perimeter. We've got an L here that's going to go for length. We're going to double that, or we're going to say 2 times length. And we got a W down here, which stands for width. So those letters and those are called variables. And when we have those letters or those variables there, don't get excited. They stand for numbers, all right? And when we put numbers in for L and W, we would have P. Same thing, if we put in numbers for P and L, we'll get W. And I can go on and on, all right? Well, actually, there are only 3 letters, so that's as far as they'll let me go. But what we're going to try to do is figure out how do we solve for W, and I'm not going to give you any numbers here, all right? I'm not going to give you any numbers. We're going to do it in terms of P and L. In other words, we're going to use these literal equations, these formulas, and we're going to isolate the variables. So when we say solve for W, sometimes you'll see also it say solve for W in terms of P and L, or say just solve for W. If you don't see any numbers or anything else to help you out, you've got 3 variables running loose in this, we're going to isolate W, and we're going to keep it with P's and L's in the final answer. So enough said about that. Go ahead and copy it down if you haven't already. Let's see where we're going to go with this problem. So 2 times, I'll put a big L there because little L's tend to look like 1s, all right? And we got 2W on the other side. That's a W. It looks like a W, all right? So let's see. First things first, what we need to do is we need to move this 2L away. We're also going to need to remove the 2 out of the picture here so we can get W by itself. That, folks, is where we're going. That's what we want to end up with all by its lonesome. Now, what's keeping us from getting there again is 2L and the 2. So let's deal with this 2L first of all right? It's a positive 2L. It means 2 times the value of the length here, all right? So what we're going to do, we're going to subtract. Because if that's positive, to move this or to remove it, we're going to have to subtract 2L, all right? Because those will cancel. Those will cancel out and give us nothing, give us 0. But what happens if we do it on the right? We got to do it on the left. So here we go. We are going to use the subtraction property of equality, which says we're going to subtract 2L from both sides of your equation. Now, be careful. Be very careful out there, my friends. P's and L's don't work well together. In fact, they just simply say P minus 2L. There you go. These go away. That's the beauty of it. And once again, we have equaling to 2W. 2W there, all right? So, I want this W all by itself, all right? That's my goal, is to get my W. See how I'm tracing it back over? That's the one we want to have by itself. The thing that's keeping me from getting there is a 2. Let's divide. Why did I divide? Some of you are asking, why did you just divide? Because it says 2 times W. I want to undo this expression by dividing. Because when I put a 2 underneath there, you see what? They're going to cancel. Going to cancel. Now again, as you all well know, if we do it to the right, we've got to do it to the left. And we're almost done. We're almost done. So I'm going to rewrite it right out here. I'm going to put W equals P minus 2L over 2. Now, that's the answer. I want you to know that is our final answer. But I want to point out a mistake that some of you are going to try to do. Some of you see these 2's and you're going like, oh, Ernie, we can cancel those. Can't we cancel those? I have a minus. I have a subtract right there in the middle. I cannot just break into the 2L with this 2. I would need a 2 on the P also. I don't have that. So my friends, can't do it. All right, we are done because this is basically work this out, then divide by 2. I can't jump that 2 into that 2, all right, like I did over here. See how it worked? It was by itself. Here I've got this P minus that's attached, and that messes things up. So know that many times you get a little crazy about dividing things out. Don't go too far. Don't go too far. Know when to hold, know when to fold, know when to walk away, and that's when you walk away right there, all right? Problem is done. You go any deeper, you will be in trouble, all right? So first problem on a road, there we go. Perimeter of a rectangle, by the way, in case you were wondering on that. That's a formula. Let's look at our next formula here. This is considered to be an equation, 3x minus 4y equals 12. Now, some of you folks who are taking 7th and 8th grade math, and also you're in algebra, pre-algebra, geometry, all up and down the line, you're going to recognize this expression because it's a something x plus or minus here, something y, equaling, in this case, it's 12. This is what we call standard form of a linear equation, standard form of a linear equation. And we're going to solve for y. That means we're going to take and get y by itself. So once again, go ahead, folks, rewrite that equation right underneath here. And we've got 3x minus the 4y, and we're going to let that equal to 12. I want to get the y by itself. Notice there's a minus 4 in front of that y. That's important to notice. I've also got a 3x. The 3x has got to take a hike somewhere also. In fact, it needs to go first. So notice how this thing is in. Some of you say, well, that's a minus. That means we plus 3x? No, 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 no. What's the sign in front of the 3? Everybody look at that. What's the sign in front of 3? Say, Ernie, there's not a sign there. In other words, if there's no sign, folks, it is positive. It's positive. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to subtract 3x right off the bat. Right off the bat. Nice little term there. Sometimes I call it a clump, but we're going to move it. We're going to move it to the right-hand side because if I say minus 3x to the left, I must do the same thing to the right. So here we go. We're going to subtract 3x over there. And I want us to be very careful what happens here because some of you are going excited. Oh, that's 9x. No, it isn't. Those are not like terms. So we're going to have 12 minus 3x. If you get 9x, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to be in trouble. It's not going to graph right. It's going to look awful. I can go on, all right? And you say, well, sometimes you do, Ernie. Yes, this is true. But what we got over here, we're losing the 3x's, all right? They're taking care of each other. So we are left with, and by the way, another little mistake that people forget and sometimes do, there's a minus. That's got to come down. It's got to come down. It's going to become a negative 4y at this point, all right? And notice I've got 12 minus 3x. I'm going to go ahead and place, since we're talking about this slope-intercept form. Did I say slope-intercept? That's what happens when we get y by itself, isn't it? Some of y'all have heard that y equals mx plus b. Well, we're about to come up with that, all right? But let's do it. Let's divide by negative 4. That's what we got to clean up here. Negative 4, there we go. And that's going to leave me with y equals, and folks, let's be careful with these things now. When we have a 12 divided by a negative 4, you know, a positive divided by a negative is a negative. Watch your signs. I'm going to say that a lot here. I have to watch my signs too. I've been known to forget and miss up by negative, and it makes an answer very wrong, okay? So we got minus 3, and by the way, here we've got 2 negatives. Now 3/4, you say, Ernie, doesn't that just reduce to 3/4? It does, but we're going to clear it up with these 2 negatives because they become a positive. So we're going to say that's plus 3/4 x, all right? Now, I'm going to switch it around because we like looking at that slope-intercept form. So final answer, by the way, this one's good. If you got that for your answer, I'd give you full credit. All right, we'd be fine. Unless I ask for slope-intercept form, but I'm just saying solve for y. That's good, all right? Another option here would be the 3/4 x comes to the front, and then we subtract 3. And that's usually where we think of that being slope-intercept, because that would become the slope. The negative 3 would become your y-intercept, and hence they call it slope-intercept form. Now, I know I've got some great students out there saying, what if we did this? And some of you are like, oh, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? What if they left it like y equals, you had 12 minus 3x over a negative 4. That would be fine. That's legit. That's legit. Remember, this is a special form. This is basically the same thing. I just simply changed the order, which is commutative, which I can do. And here, I just simply left it as a nice improper, or I don't know if you call it improper fraction or not, but as a nice simple fraction, all right? Either way, my friends, would be saying the same thing. If you put in a value for x, you would come with the same value for y with all of these expressions. So, again, I like to show there's more than one way to get to an answer, and sometimes there's more than one answer that will convey the same information. So just listen for what they're asking. Look for what they're asking. Let's take a look at our next one here. Another formula. This is all about it. We're flowing today, all right? I hope that flowed well with you guys. And again, when you go through these problems, lots of times it's looking out for signs, looking out for additions, looking out for subtractions. It's little things that make these things work, all right? So let's take a look at this one. Speaking of little things, this one looks rather easy. It says the formula for volume of a rectangular solid is the volume, which is V, length times width times height, all right? A lot of times we consider this to be a base area times a height. That's another way of doing it. But we're just going to use those three dimensions, length, width, and height, and we're going to solve for H. So again, rewrite it with me here. This one is going to move very quickly, and it's like W and H. I'm going to put little time signs in there just so we remember that is all about multiplication. Don't have to have them there. In fact, that's why we don't have them here. You're understood that it's going to be multiplication if you see them jammed together, but sometimes people forget. So it's a multiplication situation right through there. So my idea is, or our idea is, we want to get H by itself. That's what it's saying, solve for H. And we don't know what W and L are, so we can't do anything with them very much except move them around. By the way, how are they hooked into H? They're both in by multiplication. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to divide not only the W, but I'm going to go ahead and divide L also. So we're going to take out the L and the W. We're going to divide it. And guys, you know it. You know it's coming. You know it's coming. The property of equality, which one is it this time? What are we doing? We're dividing, so it's going to be the division property of equality. We are going to do the same thing over here with the V. We're going to divide by L and W. And since we do not know what L and W are equal to, this is pretty much about where we have to go. Now, those go away. They cancel. That's the beauty of it. That's why we divided. Over here, we've still got a nice little division expression. And remember, what's left over? H. So right over here, I'm going to write it. H equals the volume divided by the product of length and width. Now, I want you to understand, again, these letters are not just letters. They're called variables. They stand for numbers. And these are really well stated because that's a volume, that's a length, and that's a width. And by the way, you could have put just over LW. I put the time sign in there. Sometimes I like to do that for emphasis. But it's the product, and then you would divide that into the volume. How easy is this? Pretty easy, isn't it? It's all about what do you do? How do we deal with it? So far we've added, we've subtracted some, we have divided. Let's see what we've got coming up next here. Got the area of a right triangle, or any triangle actually. The area formula is 1/2 base height. Now you say, wow, right triangles? Yeah, 1/2 base height. Obtuse triangles? Yeah, 1/2 base height. Why not acute triangles? 1/2 base height. They're all the same formula, all right? So you got a base and a height going to it, and they make right angles. I can tell you all sorts of good things, but in this problem, we just want to figure out what B is. So go ahead and write that down with me over there. We got A equals 1/2 BH. And you know, some of you want to put that little time sign, go for it, go for it. Now, my first thing I've got to deal with here is this little old 1/2. Because that's pesky. That's kind of pesky, all right? I'm going to rewrite this. I'm going to give myself a little bit of room here because we're going to have to do something with that 1/2, and I really want to put it in there where you guys can see it, all right? To remove that 1/2, I am going to need to use a reciprocal and multiply. So guess what? We're going to use a reciprocal of 1/2. Reciprocal is, think about it out there, folks. How about it? 2/1. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put 2/1 right into the heart of this problem, right there. And see what's going to happen? The 2's are going to cancel. Now, remember. Got to put that 2 also over there. Can't just throw it away. It's going to, if we get rid of it on one side, it's going to appear on the other somehow, some way. And this time we're multiplying. We multiplied 2 over here. We got to multiply 2 over here. Multiplication, property of equality. But what's pretty about this, my friends, the fractions are gone. The fractions are gone. So we have 2a equaling, according to this, b times h. By the way, b and h are base and height. And we're trying to get what? B by itself. So that means h needs to go away. And see, I put that time sign in there. Once again, I want you to see where we are. Now, we're going to divide by, well, we want to keep b, right? We're going to divide by h. Again, divide both sides by h. And here we have it. Here we have it. The h's cancel. The b is left. And over here we got 2a. And you cannot do anything with 2a over h. It's going to hang out like it is, unless I give you some numbers for it. And that is your final base answer. Okay. All right. Y'all got any questions? Hey, if you do, we always can ask you to do that and take care of us at TNLearn at, our Mathline address there, TNLearn@pbs.org, and all sorts of good things. Now, there it is, Mathline at TNLearn.org. I knew I had it on the tip of my tongue there, but that's where you can send questions if you still have questions on what I've done for you, okay? Now, let's take a look at our next formula, next problem here, all about another area, another formula, area of a trapezoid. Now, trapezoid is one of those four-sided figures. It's not a parallelogram. It's not a rectangle. It's not a rhombus. It's not a square. It's its own baby. It's got two bases that run parallel. Notice we have base 1 and base 2, and they are different lengths. They are different lengths. Now, the legs, the other two sides, they might be the same length, okay? We have a thing called isosceles trapezoid, but many times they won't be the same either. But these are the important ingredients. They're the ones that run parallel, okay? Run parallel. The height is the perpendicular distance, or the straight line coming down from base to base, and we measure that, and that would be our height. So that's the ingredients to find the area. Now what we want to do is find h this time, all right? So let's start off here. Let's go with a equals, and a minute ago I had to come back and rewrite. We don't want to rewrite this thing while you're writing with me. Leave yourself some space because we're going to have to deal with that 1/2. Let's put an h right there. Everybody see it? Got it? And base 1 plus base 2. That's immaterial which one of those is bigger. They're going to be different though, all right? And they've got to be positive because you can't have negative lengths, my friends. So they've got to be two positive numbers. They might be fractions, they might be integers, they might be decimals, but they're going to be positive and they will be different. Now, what are we going to do from here? Let's talk about this 1/2. Remember what happened last time we had a 1/2? And those of you just tuning in, think about it now. We're going to need a reciprocal. Going to need the reciprocal of 1/2. And that reciprocal is 2 over 1. There you go. Bang, bang, bang. 2 over 1. Why did I do that? Because it's going to allow those to cancel. That's going to allow to cancel. But the trick is, since I put a 2 to this side, I must put a 2 to the left-hand side. So there it goes. Pops into view. So what do we got? Let's look. We got 2a equaling h times, that's the height by the way, our two bases added together, base 1 and base 2. By the way, that's not base squared. That's just the second base. That's the first base, all right? That's what those are. We call them subscripts. Call them little subscripts. So don't get excited. Well, you got little numbers there. What do we do? Oh, we don't do anything. We just call them the first base and the second base, all right? And in this case, we need h by itself. Now, it says h times this quantity. Notice that quantity is in a parenthesis. That means we have to work with it at one lump. It's like one big clump here, all right? There are two terms there, right, but we have to take them together as being one quantity inside that parenthesis. And it's keeping us from having h by itself. So what we're going to do is hook by multiplication. We're going to unhook by dividing, all right? Now, go ahead and put it right underneath there because that's going to allow them to cancel. Notice they had to be perfectly identical. If it makes you feel better, you can put a parenthesis around it. It's not going to matter because these are going to cancel. That's the idea. They will divide out. Because no matter how you look at it, my friends, those are the same number. If base 1 and base 2 add up to 10, they still add up to 10. You're dividing 10 by 10, say goodbye. You're left with h. However, when you say goodbye on the right side, you've got it down, all right? We're going to have to say hello on the left side. So let's pick up base 1 and base 2 hanging out over there. And again, that's important to think that is in a parenthesis, although we haven't marked it that way, all right? Because this acts like a big parenthesis division moment here, all right? You've got to figure out this, then divide it into the 2a. But let's see what that means. Does that mean we're finished? Whew, you think so? I hope so. Let's see what we've got. Let's write it right out here. H equals a big 2a over base 1 plus base 2. And folks, it's understood when we write something like this, well, it means we're going to add it together and then we're going to divide it in there. Now let me give you a hint. If I gave you numbers for a, base 1, and base 2, and you were going on your calculator, you would need to be sure that you put base 1 plus base 2, those two in a parenthesis, all right? Although we don't have it in the simplified form here, if you were going to try to substitute and get some values, you would need to put parentheses around them because that would tell the calculator, do this first, then we'll work it through. It will also do 2a first, it'll also do the b1 plus b2 first, and then you'll get your final result by one simple division in the end. So how about that? Easy, 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 all right? And again, these formulas tell you a lot, but you've got to be ready to understand what are they telling you to do, all right? What are they telling you to do? When you start replacing those numbers back in, you've got to really understand, and it goes back to our good old friend, my dear Aunt Sally. Multiply and divide first, then you do your addition subtraction, unless you throw some parentheses in there to tell them to do something differently, all right? So let's take a look at that. Speaking of the same problem coming back at us, you say, well, didn't we just do that? We did it for H. Now we're going to go for, a little more troublesome here, B2, all right? So let's write that one down. This one's going to take a little bit of effort, okay? It's going to take a little bit of thought. I'm going to go ahead and put that space there between the 1/2. I would advise you guys to do that too. Put your H right there. And, base 1, base 2. We've got it ready to go. Everybody good? Everybody got it written down? Fasten your seatbelts. We're ready to go. You know what we're going to do with this 1/2, I bet. We're going to clean it up by using its reciprocal. The reciprocal is a big old 2. So put 2 over 1 right there. We know what's the story. We've got to do it over here to the left side also. So throw that 2 right in there. We have 2a equaling 2 h times first base, second base. Now remember, these little things are subscripts. They're not exponents, so don't think about that being base squared. No, it's first and second, all right? Now, we're going to do the nice thing and the best thing we can do. We're going to get rid of this h first, because this thing's inside a parenthesis, and once the h disappears, basically that parenthesis is gone, all right? So let's see why that happens. We're going to divide both sides by h. Why did I divide by h? Because it's multiplying into that parenthesis. So we want to remove it, we're going to divide. Aha, if we do it to the right, aha, do it to the left. You've got it going, all right? So we've got 2a divided by h equaling, what do we have? The h is disappearing. So right down here, let's go with it. We've got 2a divided by h, or over h as we love to call it, equaling a base 1 plus a base 2. Notice it basically uncovered our parenthesis. We're okay. It's okay. Everybody, some of y'all getting, where'd it go? Well, there's nothing left here except to say we're adding 2 numbers over here. All right, so there's no reason to put it in parentheses. So here's the deal. Here's the deal. I need this guy by itself right there. What's keeping me from having it is that B1. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to subtract B1 on both cases. And already, you know what I'm thinking? This is looking pretty messy. Let me pull right over here and finish this thing off. I've got 2 areas, or 2a, divided by the height, minus that first base, equaling, well, that's gone away, right? The second base. And you know what? That's my final expression. That is my final expression. So again, that one looked a little bit more difficult to ramble through, didn't it? Got a little bit of toughness there. But like I said, folks, you're on Mathline. Occasionally we throw a challenge at you. Occasionally we throw a challenge. But once again, notice the order we went with. 2a divided by h. We had to get that first. Then it's simply addition or subtraction. In this case, we need to subtract to get b2, base 2 by itself. Isn't that good? Isn't that easy? Loving it. Loving it. All right. Hey, by the way, I understand out there that we are doing Facebook a lot, right? I know, because I answer a lot of your questions. I appreciate you guys tuning in to me there and also sending me problems. www.facebook.com/TNLearn. And of course, we always want you to like us. We want you to like us. As I mentioned earlier, Mathline at TNLearn.org. That's where you can send me some questions also. We appreciate those, and I've been getting a lot of them from you throughout the summer, and that's great. We will address those in future shows also. And how about YouTube? How many of you have seen us on YouTube? Our shows are coming out on YouTube now. www.youtube.com with a / of TNLearn. You can see our problems of the day. You can see our entire summer shows. Just a lot of fun, and we appreciate when you tune in there and give us some hits, okay? So that's how it works. And of course, you tune in and watch us on Mathline at your appropriate times, in your appropriate time zones. It's wonderful. We're glad to have you throughout this summer. And by the way, I want to tell you one more great thing coming about August the 8th. August the 8th. Everybody put that one on your calendar. We will be back live, and you will be starting to call in and talk to us again, all right? Which is always exciting to me. I always like to hear your voices, and I always like to hear your questions and your problems. And you know what? I want you to start telling your friends, your teachers, and all those others that there's a great show on East Tennessee PBS and also on Upper Cumberland PBS that you want to tune into, and they ought to also, all right? Hey, thanks for tuning in today. We will see you again tomorrow and the rest of this week.